we're talking about uncertainty today.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's out there everywhere all the time.
Yep.
Right? Like I hear people talk about how we're in the age of uncertainty, how everything is so much more volatile than ever. How can businesses survive? It's kind of everything seems to be evolving around this kind of sentiment of uncertainty. And I mean, at the start, and that's months ago, I felt like it's just driving me crazy. It's just, because it's something that is not natural to me, right? Like I hardly ever feel like really uncertain. I love risk. I love the messiness. I thrive in it, right? So whenever uncertainty comes up, it's not my thing. But I cannot ignore it anymore. And then especially kind of with recent events like geopolitical climate, the whole world is in change. And I get it. I get how people really feel kind of uncertain in these times. And there's a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
But I would just love to understand it a bit better.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned we started talking about this a few months ago and it felt like really real. And I think to a lot of people, it still feels really real. And you look at just the past 5 years alone, from global pandemic to kind of mention some of the political shifts to global economy, trade shifts that are happening to wars that are continuing to break out and still continue on to this day. So there are a lot of factors contributing to the uncertainty. So I don't want to dismiss the feeling. And I totally get, knowing you, why you're like, yeah, uncertainty, let's go for it. And some people might be like, take shelter. So I don't want us to dismiss that because I do think it's a real feeling and do want to recognize, while we are business owners, strategists, consultants, today I want to encourage us to explore it through a business lens, knowing it has a bunch of intersections across a variety of ways in people's lives. But I do think it begs the question of why right now does it feel more or worse? And why is it on headlines? Every newsletter I follow is talking about it. You're hearing about it in the media. You're hearing it in pop culture references. Why does it feel worse?
Yep. And we're also seeing those like curves from economists, right? Where it's literally like the curve's only going up when it comes to like perception of uncertainty. So again, we cannot deny it, but I think we can explore, like you said, it from a business perspective, where I feel like oftentimes uncertainty is perceived as a negative thing. It's numbing. It's almost an excuse for people to just hold off on anything, wait for things to settle, and not move forward. And I think there must be another way to go about it. So is there a way that we can kind of turn around that mindset, that narrative? How can we look at uncertainty as something that sparks ideas, innovation, creative thinking? Like, is there an opportunity behind this uncertainty, especially from a business perspective?
For sure. And it makes me think of, I was reading an article and a quote from a former F1 racer said, you can never pass 15 cars on a track in a warm, sunny day, but you can when it's raining.
You know who's really good at that?
Oh. You tell me. Your Dutch is going to reveal itself. I mean, it's a worthwhile mention.
I guess we're just used to the rain.
Yeah, you are used to the rain. Maybe you're used to uncertainty. I don't know. But it does get me think. So I do think there is a like reframing of it that is a worthwhile thing to explore. But before we get into that, like in thinking about this episode and even just the conversations we've been having and with other people, I'm like, what? Again, going to this question, why does it feel worse?
Yeah.
And we were at a dinner party and everyone's kind of comparing which generation had it worse and who's got it worse. And we were like, wait, guys, this is not a competition anyone wants to win. But it did make me think of a couple of factors. Like one, there is the pace of change that might be a lot faster than previous generations or centuries has experienced.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that contribute to that. I think the connectedness of the world, something that is happening on the other side of the ocean in a country when we weren't connected by social media or technology all the time.
Makes its way over to us.
Yeah, would we feel it? So there's a bit of like the uncertainty in all the places of the world are now feel like a global uncertainty instead of an isolated uncertainty.
Yeah.
But being the nerd that I am, I was like, when was this word coined? Who invented it? And it's been around for about 50 years. So there's a guy, John Kenneth Galbraith, that coined it in his TV show and his book back in the 70s. So it has
The
been
age of uncertainty.
the
right?
age
Yeah.
of uncertainty. So it's definitely something that's out there. And I think you look at the statistics out there, to name a few, when I was reading into this, of this pace of change, 70% of employees feel really uncomfortable. And it's almost anxiety driving the pace of change that is happening, that
Yeah.
ability that it's out of their control and they don't know which way is up every day. And there's a bit of, CEOs when interviewed, there's lots of studies around. They're like, this is just the beginning of the uncertainty. There's only going to be more of it. It will be faster. It will be bigger. So to your point, what do we do about it? And how do you merge those two things together? So it makes me think about the question maybe isn't, is this the most uncertain time? But what can leaders actually do about it as leaders?
As leaders, yeah. And I think that's a fair point. And I mean, that social conversation that we were both part of was a trigger point for me, as I alluded to in the beginning. Like it brings out this rebel in me. I want to understand it. And I kind of maybe at first kind of go take the complete opposite perspective and say like, no, it's not more uncertain than ever. So, but I'm open to be convinced otherwise, right? So, and I also did some digging and some research, and what it made me realize is there's a true kind of discrepancy or potential discrepancy between like what's factually and like the rational perspective to uncertainty versus like the perceived uncertainty, the feelings, the emotions that come with it, and there's no way to argue with that, right? Like feelings, emotions, they're true. They're as true as they are for anyone, any individual.
As valid as facts.
Exactly. So consider that a fact. But then when you look at the data, and you also already mentioned it, like over generations, there's always been a level of change. And I think what I thought was really interesting is that, yes, we are currently a generation or in an era that has a really, really rapid speed of change. There are people who argue that the generation before us, so like our parents, the baby boomers, would have seen the most transformational change. Like with the rise of the internet, everything going digital, and then even before that, like industrial revolutions, like that's kind of the generation before that, but more transformational change. And then potentially, and who knows, like we don't have a crystal ball, but like the Gen Alpha and Beta and what comes after that, they're born into a whole new era that might see accelerated exponential growth or innovation. So a level of change is always there. It just makes me wonder, is there a component of like us just getting older, and as we get older, you just kind of get a little out of touch of what's happening and what's new. Like my son, who's 2 years old, already knows how to navigate an iPhone. So it's kind of, is there a component of us just getting older and not being the front runners anymore? And a little bit of like, to what extent do we truly embrace that? And didn't our parents feel the same way when we were just born? Like we came up with new things. We came home from school with things that they had never heard of. Yeah. Right. So I do feel there is a component of that. Like in your life, you just kind of get more and more out of touch. Generally speaking, not everyone, with the newest, which might feed into that perceived level of uncertainty.
Well, and you speak about generations, which I think is an interesting lens to look at how different generations responded to what type of change they had. But then you also mentioned the Industrial Revolution. So if you look at these revolutions, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, technological revolution, there was now the AI one, there's global. Yeah. And when I was looking at some of them, it's like the duration of time that revolution spanned was, in some cases, hundreds of years. When you first look at the first agricultural revolution, where now you look at the last 20 years, we've had all these revolutions happening at the same time. Yeah. You've got global, you've got AI, you've got entrepreneurship. It's all, again, happening at the same time. So I think this pace of change and connectivity of change does ring true.